Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, intuitive tarot reader, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about the Herbcrafter's Tarot. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. You can get my free 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. I am looking for 1 to 2 more guests to be on my podcast before the end of 2025. So if you have some time and you're interested or know someone that might be a good fit, please fill out my form to be a guest on the podcast and I will reach out to you. If you're local and you want to meet me in person, you can join my colleague Izzy and I for our New Year Full Moon Healing Circle on January 3rd. Step into the new year under the light of the first full moon, a sacred time for reflection, release, and renewal. We'll reflect on the lessons of the past year, clear stagnant energy, and set powerful intentions for the year ahead. We meet at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma from 2 to 4 p.m. So a slightly longer event since we will be also doing New Year incorporations to our full moon ceremony. We're super excited to see you then. Tickets for the January 3rd event are up now. So if you're local, you're looking for something to do that first Saturday of the year, you want to, we'll actually be having the circle on the day of the full moon, which is super fun. So yeah, we would love to see you there. And I'm so excited to get to do a 2-hour event, really settle into it and set some intentions for the year ahead. You can find the links for any of the offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, welcome to season 19, where I'm talking all about different decks and how to use them. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. And today I'm talking about the Herbcrafter's Tarot. This is artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert and written by Latisha Guthrie. It is a tarot deck and goes with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith style for the most part with this deck. So it does have the 78 cards. It is all herbs or plants. So, you know, you don't have your traditional kind of like people necessarily in the cards. And instead of speaking about the suits in terms of cups, swords, wands, or pentacles, they just talk about the elements. So they have water, fire, earth, and air, right? Yeah, that's all of them. So that is one difference. What else here? I'm trying to remember where I got this deck. I think, okay, so I did a season on, I'm looking back at my thing, on Tarot and Plant Allies, season 11. And as I did that, I actually don't have a botanical deck, or I didn't at the time, of any kind. So I was using a lot of deck images online, and I actually ended up using images from this deck for maybe like half the episodes, because I would look up the plant associations with different tarot cards, and this was always coming up. And I've been looking for a botanical deck probably for like multiple years at this point, and I would find them and I didn't love any of them. I tried buying a deck in the past that I thought would be good for plant wise, and I didn't enjoy it as much. It doesn't have the names of the plants, which is very important to me. So yeah, after that season, I was like, all right, I'm gonna treat myself and give myself another deck. And that is how I ended up with this deck. So it was one that I was fairly familiar with from doing that season. It's beautiful. I love it because it is such a, it's plants, but it's also kind of like witchy crafting. That's why it's called herb crafting. It has beautiful images, like painted images of the plants, and a lot of like the energetic components of them. So what do I mean by say that? Like, it doesn't just show the plant. Sometimes it shows it in a garden, or like once you've harvested some of it. I'm just looking at some of the cards here. So like nettle, it shows it like in the woods. For blackberry here, which is for the devil, it shows like a blackberry pie and a cast iron. You see some different, like it looks like maybe like some cinnamon herbs spilled out. We see like a bowl of blackberries. We see the leaves, and each of the cards, if you use the deck guidebook, has the name of the card, the plant, the Latin name for the plant, a sort of short description, or let me see what it says in the beginning about what exactly it says. I was gonna say it's a short description, but it's almost like a saying or like a mantra related to the plant. Yeah, so in the front here of the tarot deck guidebook, it says, in the major arcana, we follow an herbcrafter's journey as she meets the wilderness and learns to cultivate a garden for herself and one for the world. The major arcana consists of 22 cards representing the suit of spirit, which is often considered the sort of fifth element. So the minor arcana, of course, has the traditional 56 cards into 4 suits. The suits have been changed, like I said. So swords becomes air, wands becomes fire, cups become water, and pentacles become earth. It says the tools of the herbcrafter are bowlines in the suit of air, mortars and pestles in the suit of fire, kettles in the suit of water, and baskets in the suit of earth. The suits also represent skills acquired on the herbcrafter's journey. So learning is associated with air, creating associated with fire, nourishing water, and giving earth. The minor arcana cards show the everyday activities of the herbcrafter. She stands outside the frame. We experience her life from the plant's perspective. We find her walking in nature, growing a cultivated garden, crafting medicine with fire and water, or creating legacy tools for the future. And it says we chose the herbs for each suit according to how their medicine is acquired. The suit of air honors the medicine that comes from noticing, observing the plants as they are. Air cards show tall, sword-like plants outside. The suit of fire celebrates the alchemy of herbcraft. Fire cards show busy scenes making tinctures and potions. The suit of water emphasizes water-based medicines. Water cards show baths and teas. And the suit of earth features plants that are used to make legacy tools. Earth cards show baskets and fiber arts. I don't think I've ever read this before, so I'm learning a lot from this. Yeah, so it says the herbs for each number in the minor arcana, suit parts, we chose the herbs for each number according to how they contribute to the ecosystem. So number 1 is dooryard herbs and weeds. 2 are plants that attract pollinators or feed animal friends. 3 are plants that are easy to grow. 4 are for borders and hedges. 5 are plants that are listed as endangered or threatened by United Plant Savers, which is a great organization and website to go to if you ever want to find really good information about endangered or threatened plants. 6 is for abundantly producing plants. 7 for ancient trees. So like I have one in front of me, the chariot is represented as cedar. 8 is for root medicine plants, 9 is for fruit trees, and 10 are for cover crops and composting plants. And it says the 16 people cards are inspired by the legacy of women healers throughout history. The titles of people's cards are changed from traditional court card names to represent the archetypes each woman embodies as she matures into her craft from wanderer to warrior, to midwife to teacher. So pages become hijas or daughters, knights become adelitas or warriors, queens become madres or mothers, and kings become curanderas or healers. Like fairy godmothers, they give They each offer a gift to the Herbcrafter in the form of a virtue. Hijas give playfulness, Adelitas give activism, Madres give love, and Curanderas give wisdom. And the people cards feature the hands of the Herbcrafter, which is very cool. So a lot of the cards, you just see the plants, or like they said, sort of the plants in their natural environment or in like how you would craft with them. But like here's a curandera of air card. We see a hand reaching out and holding rosemary. So it brings a little bit more of like the personhood into the card. It says, as cultural anthropologist Angelis Ariane writes, hands were humans' first tools. Hands give, hands receive. Your ancestors live in your hands. Hands are symbols of initiation. They have the power to love, create, move, and change. They are associated with giving, receiving, and serving. They teach us about reciprocity. Hands bridge the profane and sacred worlds. All right, and this deck, like I said, was written by Latisha Guthrie, and the artwork is done by Joanna Powell Colbert from Bellingham, Washington, and created in the spring equinox of 2018. So they worked together to create this deck, which is very cool and are fairly local to me. They also have another deck of the Gaian Tarot, which is Joanna Powell Colbert's first deck. And this deck came after that, and they expand on her philosophy while focusing on botanicals. And they highlight plants found in the spaces that the two of them call home, which are the Pacific Northwest and the Sonoran Desert. So two very different plant locations as well. And it says we place a light emphasis on the traditions of Latisha's Mexican-American heritage, as well as the Celtic heritage that we share. So hence some of the people names at the end, which are in Spanish. And with each card, so I was trying to talk about this earlier and I got sidetracked, but with each card it says, so it's the name of the card, 9 of Fire, Wild Cherry, then we have Prunus Serotina or Prunus Virginiana, which are like the Latin names. Then it says Radiant Power, Humble Spirit, Sweeten Work with Play, Satisfaction Flourishes when you stay the course. So this is what I mean by it. It's kind of like a saying or a mantra. Then it talks, the first paragraph is about what the card depicts. So here it says at Lama's altar, honoring the first harvest is displayed on a mantle. Yarrow, lavender, sage, and mint hang above the fire. Water boils on the wood stove. Branches of wild cherry lie on the crafting table with a mortar and pestle, rose hips, honey, jars, spoons, and ladles. And then it goes into the message. And then at the bottom, and this is in the Tarot Deck Guidebook, it shares about crafting with that card. So there's 3 different things for every card. So for this one, for example, the 9 of Fire, which is wild cherry, it says make wild cherry syrup for a home apothecary, add it to warmed cider, and toast to your power. You can play with cherry blossoms, so craft a flower elixir for strength and stamina, or you can craft a wild cherry jelly in the heat of summer and let it satisfy your taste buds during winter. So that is the kind of crafting aspect of the cards there. So it's not just plants, it's more like herbalism or herb crafting, as it is so named for this deck. Yeah, let's move on. So the style of the deck, I bought this deck online. You can get it from latishaguthrie.com/herbcrafterstarot, her website. She has a link to it there, and you buy it from US Games Incorporated, which has a lot of different playing cards and games, and also tarot and inspiration. So tarot oracle, books about tarot, affirmation decks, specific organizations that print like Lenormand and Kipper that print a lot of witchy materials, or Pamela Coleman Smith, who was the original artist of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, books, gift ideas, other things. So they have a whole section on their website, all of tarot and inspiration on US game system. So that is where I got it. And I highly recommend it if you are a plant herbalist, witchy person at all. It's very beautiful. I love the style of the deck. Okay, what else? Imagery. So on the back of each card we have, it reminds me of those like I Spy books from that you would have like as a kid, or those like pages where it's like a mint green background, and then we just have kind of like a smattering of different herb crafting things. So there's like a root, I see like a branch, there's like lavender buds, there's candles, there's butterflies, there's leaves, there's berries, there's acorns, citrus, like a damiana flower, rose hips and roses, peppers. So kind of probably representing every plant that is in the deck or close to. And then on the other side we have this has a white border. We have the also written out, so not in Roman numerals, the 3 of earth, which is raspberry, the 2 of fire, which is bee balm, and then an image that, like they said, is sort of different for each number and each suit as to how they incorporate the plant into the image. But like here we have the curandera of water, which is seaweed, and it depicts like a person. You can see their hand pouring like water from a tea kettle into a bath that's full of probably seaweed and other greens and flowers. And we see like a candle, like an altar. We see house plants and candles, and we actually see like an ocean in the background or a body of water. So it's a whole vibe, and this is like how you can work with the plants. Yeah, okay, what do I like to use it for? I would use this just like any traditional tarot deck. Again, it has your traditional 78 cards. You definitely use it if you're interested in any sort of herb crafting, or if you want sort of like plant spirits to work with. Like I said, like I did a whole season on tarot and plant allies. So if you're interested in like what that means and what I'm talking about, you'll get a lot of references to this deck and imagery, and you can look at their website too, where a lot of that's pulled from. But yeah, plants, I believe, have their own energies and like spirits basically. And so this deck is like a very cool way to get to know some of those, other than going outside and seeing the plants in real life. And it gives you lots of ideas for crafting, almost like a ritual right at the end of each card. Some decks do that. So like some other decks I've talked about, like if you just had this deck, that could be your entire witch practice. It could be you pull a card, you learn about the plant, you get to know it, you get some crafting ideas, you go work with the plant, right? A lot of these are like herbalism, so like herb crafting things where you make an elixir or you infuse things into a syrup, or like things that take time and effort and energy, and also having access to the plants. It's very fun. There's a wide variety of plants in here. Again, some that are cultivated, some that you can often find in local parks or things like that. Check out your foraging information and what's available to you in your area. And also a lot of like parks, state parks. You can forage in them. Just look up the rules. Usually it's just a certain amount of material, usually at a certain time of year. But that is a very cool way to do it if you don't have, your own land or plants you have access to. Of course, some of these plants can be cultivated, but not all of them, or at least they may require a lot of effort or expense, or they might grow indoors or in a different tropical environment or that kind of thing. But yeah, this is a great deck to kind of get to know plant spirits and plant allies through and their relation to the tarot. I'm trying to think. if there's anything else in particular I use it for. I do feel like it's a pretty approachable deck because just like the Anima Mundi Tarot deck, which has a lot of animals in it, I feel like maybe less people, but certainly like witchy people are maybe know some of these things about plants already, or you know, a lot of us have like eaten raspberries or smelled lavender, or I'm just looking at some of the other ones. So I pulled raspberry. They've seen a cottonwood tree in the leaves, or you've seen nope, that's a more rare one. Let's see, apples, like that's in here, right? Most of us have worked with apples. We've eaten apples. We've had apple cider. We've had apple pie. We've used apples in a salad. We've, you know, grated apples. We've made apples into art. We make apple chips, right? Like you can pretty much do that with all of these things. There are just some that, depending on your location and culture, like you might be more familiar with and what's available to you as well. All right, so yeah, anything I wouldn't use it for, I guess if someone was, again, I'm particularly looking for like people cards or wanted traditional tarot imagery, right? You're not necessarily going to get that through this deck. If someone was maybe just really not at all familiar with plants and maybe doesn't have an interest or doesn't cook or other things like that, to me that seems hard to imagine, but there are definitely people that do that, and it just might not be like their priority or that interesting of a deck for them. I think it's a great way to learn, so you could use it for learning as well, which is very cool. But yeah, it might not be as like enticing in that sense. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have the traditional tarot like symbols like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck does, where you see certain like imagery like lobsters and sunshine, and trying to think of other obscure ones. Yeah, it doesn't have the traditional suit imagery either, swords or wands or things like that. It's, you know, translated basically into how it works for this. I guess, what else would I not use it for? I guess like it is sort of like they shared, it's kind of like there's Mexican American culture, there's both Sonoran, desert, and Pacific Northwest plants. So if someone didn't live in those locations, or in particular didn't live in the US or Mexico or North America, they just might be very unfamiliar with a lot of these plants, or just have different cultural ties to plants and how to work with them. Some of those things are similar across cultures, but some are not. If you listen to my color magic season 18, I talk about that some colors mean really good things in one culture and really bad in the other, or they're associated with power in one and the devil with the other. So it just kind of depends on, again, like where you live and your cultural background and experience. Yeah, I think that's all I'll have to say on that. I'm gonna go ahead, shuffle, see what message the deck has for us today. These decks are tall. I would say they're pretty similar to what I would say is the sort of like average deck size of a tarot deck. You know, basically twice as tall as they are wide. You know, about. It has a fairly large guidebook. It's pretty much one plant per page, so it's not very long, but there's still a lot of information in there. And it talks about a lot of crafting activities. There are spreads in the back. Like I said, there's a pretty long introduction in the beginning about how to use the deck and everything that they sort of use their own symbolism for. And it talks all about the different crafting activities, like what is a flower essence? What is an oxmel? What is kombucha? Because those are a lot of things that they reference in the deck. And then it also talks about the creators. And the artwork is done in Prismacolor colored pencils in a photorealistic style. The two authors worked together to brainstorm the imagery. Then they took photos and kind of staged the photos, and then they took the photos into digital editing and adjusted it there and added some different things. And so there's sort of a combination of different artistic styles, but it's sort of, yeah, looks like it could have been hand drawn originally or different things with, I can imagine the colored pencils, and then it is, but it's also kind of mixed with the imagery of like if you took a photo of the altar or the herb crafting you were doing, which I think is very cool. Again, like it has a lot of, I don't know, I love herb crafting, so this deck makes a lot of sense to me. But I think also herb crafting is like a very cool way to get to know your local landscape and plants and be more connected to nature and where you live. Sorry if my shuffling was very loud. All right. What message does the deck have for us today? Okay, I pulled Nasturtium, 6 of Fire. Oh, I guess this is one other thing about this deck. It does not really have reversals, or at least there's no descriptions for it in the tarot deck guidebook. It sort of makes sense to me because I'm like, if often reversals are seen as like the opposite, or you're having a challenge, which could still be true, but it's hard to imagine like what the opposite of a plant is in that sense. So the other thing I guess is that this deck is organized instead of like ace through 10, page, jack, no, page, knight, queen, king of one suit, and then it moves on to the next one. In the deck organization, like in the tarot deck guidebook, it does all the 5s together, all the 6s together, all the 7s together. So in some ways that's kind of nice, because like here I have a 6 of Fire, so I know I go to the 6s section, and then I find the one for fire and nasturtium. But that is just different than a lot of other tarot decks that I use, where they mostly go by suit. All right, so the 6 of Fire, Nasturtium. I love Nasturtium as a plant. I've grown it a lot in the garden. It's a really good trap plant, which means if you plant it near things that you don't want to be bug eaten or bug ridden, Nasturtium attracts a lot of different, I guess maybe not attracts, but basically it's a trap plant, and that like if you put it near plants that you don't want to get eaten, bugs are more attracted to the nasturtium plant. So often when I have had nasturtium near other plants in my raised garden beds, they literally get covered like in a horrifying horror movie kind of way with bugs. Also, every part of nasturtium is edible to humans and probably also to bugs. Probably why it's a good trap plant. You can use the flowers. They're really pretty, edible. They come in different kind of like iterations. They're oranges or reds or yellows. You can eat the leaves. They're sort of like the taste of a radish. That's like a little, it's like watery and like a little spicy, if you know what I mean. Like it has like a bite to it. You can use them, like cook them down, or use them as kind of like salad greens. They're like very circular, which is kind of cool. They look almost like pond lilies. They're like the like, what are they called? Yeah, like water lily, like pads. They kind of look like that. And often they are climbing or trailing, so they'll sort of like, if you have them again in a garden bed, they'll sort of like weave throughout different plants. They sometimes can cling on to things slightly, but very pretty. Anyway, okay, nasturtium, 6 of Fire, Tropaleum species. Celebrate yourself and others. Call the circle, make some magic. Glitter and spice magnify power and joy. A table is set for making spells with friends. Large beeswax pillars wait to be adorned. Red and gold glitter spills onto the table. Nasturtium flowers, crimson, orange, and yellow, pepper the table. A candle is lit in the center of the holy mess to mark the beginning of sacred time. Raise a little power for healing and transformation. Cheer on your friends and praise their accomplishments as they do for you. Drawing bees and nourishing soil, wildly growing nasturtium is a vibrant plant that brings life to the garden. Your ability to bring people together creates magic. Claim your place as a community leader. Gather circles, creativity ignites creativity. Nasturtium blooms in many colors. Let your personal flair shine. Dance to your own beat while dancing in harmony with others. Nasturtium nasturtium vinegar adds flavor with a kick. Celebrate your accomplishments with pizzazz. So if you want to craft with nasturtium or the 6 of fire, you can add nasturtium petals to spell candles to increase their energy and strength. You can make nasturtium oxmel spritzers to toast your accomplishments, and you can magnify joy at your next gathering. Serve goat cheese mixed with nasturtium petals and leaves. Yeah, they are really good for making like either putting them in salads as like an edible flower, or yeah, adding them to, you can add them to like butters or cheeses where you make them like herbed or very pretty. If you've ever seen ones where they like press flowers into it. I was just gonna quickly share with you what the definition of an oxmel is. So fill a jar 2/3 of the way full with plant material. Then you fill the jar halfway with vinegar and you add honey until the jar is full. Stir to ensure that all plants are submerged in liquid, cover with a clear lid, and infuse for a full moon cycle or more. So, you know, about a month. Strain if desired and enjoy. So that's what an oxmel is. So it says you can make one with nasturtium, make oxmel spritzers, which is fascinating. So you could, I guess once you make it and strain it, then you could add it to a drink and with some bubbly water or other things to as a toast to your accomplishments, because this is all about celebration. So I did pull this card in reverse. So perhaps maybe there are things that you're having a hard time celebrating right now, or maybe you really need, right? Often at the end of the year, there's a feeling of like, I'm exhausted. What did I even do this year? And so sometimes just reflecting back on it, thinking about all the things you've done, the people you've brought together, the things that went really well, your achievements and accomplishments, even if maybe you didn't do all the things you wanted to do, right? Often if we look back at that list, it's like, wow, actually, yeah, I did a lot of things. So I think that's the rest of the energy too. And maybe this is something you want to call in for 2026, right? Is celebration, community, creating circles with other folks, you know, being yourself, letting your personality flare, shine, as this card says, but also, right, doing that with other people, letting yourself be known by others, letting others celebrate you as well. So that is very fun. All right, well, again, that was the Herbcrafter's Tarot, artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert and written by Latisha Guthrie. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com, with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.